you're going to go straight into the
Personally, I have been really concerned and at times offended by these new efforts to to really whitewash American history, to whether it's national parks or whether it's something at Arlington National Cemetery, an effort to make, to talk about some of the Black soldiers who died in various conflicts, to this whole PragerU, which is this animated series that's being shown in a lot of public schools all across the country that basically gloss over things like slavery and, to present this pristine view of history that's simply isn't accurate.
Right.
And I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on this reversion to a brand of history that is not factually accurate, that presents American history, through rose-colored glasses, and gives the impression that Americans never did anything wrong.
that Americans never did anything wrong. That Americans never did anything wrong, trying to make people believe that Americans never did anything wrong. That is the most preposterous and comical accusation I think I've seen yet. Of course, Americans have done things wrong. Of course, people have done things wrong in the past, in the present, during our founding, before our founding, after our founding. Of course, they were flawed and walking contradictions on all sides, whether they were settlers, American Indians, our founding fathers, the most brilliant minds. Of course, people did something wrong. That's a clip of Katie Couric interviewing Ken Burns, who is the producer of PBS's new series, The American Revolution, which is out now. I can't. I can't help but laugh. But you're here live with me. I'm going to be responding to that clip shortly. But first, I am obligated to say welcome to a special edition of Parent Alert. Today is Wednesday, November 19th. We are live on PragerU's Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube. And this episode, yes, will be heading onto our website after this live stream is done. Drop a comment in the meantime. Tell me where you're watching or listening from. We, of course, are here in California. I'm Jill Simonian. I'm the co-creator of PragerU Kids content. I'm a California mom of teens. And listen, it's been a while since I've hopped on to the live stream on our PragerU channels to do a Parent Alert Live, but I decided to do a live today, sort of like a snap decision in response to a headline that has a lot of people losing their minds now. I'm responding to the U.S. Department of Education's recent announcement on November 18th, saying that they are partnering with 6 agencies to break up education bureaucracy. Yes. This is the beginning, dare I say, of the dismantling of the Department of Education. And listen, from my perspective, this is an example of promises made, promises kept to break up bureaucracy, to aim to rectify and to correct the entities that are not working to serve the people in our government. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. I'm going to break down what a lot of key factors truly mean with this announcement. I have the facts. We can be grateful for this movement. I'll get into that. But first, speaking of gratitude, Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is here. And I am going to be sharing in this episode a few resources that your family is going to love for the holiday. Thanksgiving is admittedly my most favorite holiday. I've hosted the past few years, but this year I'm not hosting. Anyways, we've got great things that we've crafted here at PragerU Kids for your family to read, to learn, to do, to play games with each other. We've crafted all sorts of things with the goal of instilling a thankful spirit, with a goal to honor our blessings as Americans, to honor our nation, the good, the bad, the flawed, the, working towards a more perfect union, all the things, but just to honor who we are as Americans. That's later. I'll be sharing some of our Thanksgiving resources for you. But back now to Katie Couric's concern about what we here at PragerU are doing. And I've got a new producer today, and it is Will in the booth. So shout out to Will. In the comments, shout out to Will. I know it's Jill and Will. It's really fun. So Will, I'm going to see, maybe we can flip up a split screen just to show the visual of Katie interviewing Ken Burns so people know what we're talking about. If you have not watched this entire video on Katie Couric's YouTube channel, I encourage you to watch the whole thing. Unlike the mainstream media, I don't like to pluck isolated sound bites. We opened this parent alert. If you're just tuning in now, we opened this live stream with Katie Couric saying that she's really concerned about the whitewashing of history and that she, drops our name, PragerU, literally out of nowhere in this interview that she's doing with Ken Burns, talking about history. We shared that soundbite at the beginning, but I have watched this entire interview in its entirety. And I want to give full context and, reporting back, so to speak, of what this interview was on her YouTube channel. I loved watching this interview. From the bottom of my heart, I loved watching this interview. I didn't agree with every single perception and worldview that was put forth by both Ken and Katie. But for them, there were a lot of misconceptions and there was a lot of projections about what, conservative people think. But, I will tell you that the conversation was all about getting people excited to learn about history. And of course, Ken Burns' series on PBS, and I know it's ironic that I'm talking about PBS here at PragerU Kids, right? But listen, okay? Like I said, don't project what you think we are here, okay? I'm speaking for myself. They were doing the interview to promote Ken Burns' new series on PBS, The American Revolution. And they had a very, like I said, I loved watching the conversation. It was a great conversation. But the fact that they were talking about patriotism and how the founding of our nation was very complicated, and the story of America is a complex one, filled with not only, we talk about grit here at PragerU, but the founding of America was very bluntly put, very bloody, very tragic. It was complicated, and it still is complicated. And they were having a great conversation, which I personally agreed with. And Ken Burns was talking about all the different stories that he's included about people who aren't normally talked about in the American Revolution. And then out of nowhere, Katie Couric said, well, what about PragerU whitewashing history, in so many words? And the fact that none of the conversation was talking about PragerU at all, literally. And the fact that PragerU's name was plucked from nowhere and dropped into this conversation leads me to believe, with a smile on my face, that perhaps Katie Couric purposely said PragerU for the purposes to get us to react to it, so that we share the clip of her interview, because we know that our audience is loyal, and we know that we have we're very grateful for a powerful reach. So a part of me thinks that she just, threw the PragerU name in there so that we would react and share it and amplify her video. If that was the goal, mission accomplished, Katie, okay? But the fact that she said, what about PragerU whitewashing history, proves to me, and so many of us, and so many of you who know the truth about what we do here at PragerU, because you actually watch our content in its entirety, it proves to me that she has not watched our content in length.
Soldiers who died.
And she's straight up lying about PragerU whitewashing history. First of all, and it's also incorrect. First of all, she cites PragerU as an animated series that's being shown in schools. PragerU, we are not an animated series. We are an educational nonprofit that has literally made thousands of episodes for kids age 4 through adolescent, adult, all the way up to 104. Age 104. That's our thing, 4 to 104. Yes, we have some animated series for young learners, which is part of PragerU Kids. Yes, we have some series for adolescents. And yes, we have series for adults. Some of our series are purely educational, historical, created by scholars and academics in some of our highest institutions across the nation with masters in history, PhDs in history, teaching credentials. Not only teaching credentials for, university type professors, but teaching credentialed teachers for kindergarten through 12th grade. So here's the thing. Katie Couric, you're a Peabody winning journalist. You are a Peabody winning journalist. I am humbly, as someone who is not a Peabody winning journalist, I'm humbly asking, please do better. Please share accurate information with transparency. Ken Burns, in his defense, and mind you, I watched the entire interview between him and Katie Couric, and I will say it again, it was a fantastic conversation about American history and the complications of our founding and who we are as Americans and what can bring us together and how being a patriot against tyranny was violent, but it was for the purpose of getting to a greater good. It was a wonderful conversation. Ken Burns' reaction to her kept it classy. He didn't feed in. His immediate response to her was that he wants to tell the whole American story of the oppressed, of the bloody battle. And my response to his response is, yes, we agree. I will speak for myself as the co-creator of PragerU Kids. Yes, Ken Burns, I agree with you. Our U.S. history was bloody. It was not easy. It required conviction and perseverance and grit. And yes, it was violent. And the founding fathers fought like hell with each other. No one is trying to romanticize our American history, especially not here at PragerU and PragerU Kids. This is something that we talk about all the time, constantly. Yes, our founding fathers were flawed men who wrote equality and still owned slaves because, unfortunately, that's how the whole world operated at the time. Slavery is wrong. It was wrong. It still is wrong. It'll always be wrong. We have never said anything otherwise here at PragerU. All of us agree with that. And we actually don't gloss over it because if Katie Couric had gone on and watched a wide breadth of our videos, whether for youngest learners or for adults, she would know that we do not gloss over these things. We present it, though, in age-appropriate ways for kindergartners and up. And here's the problem that I really want to again tackle when it comes to, everyone always screams, you got to tell the whole story. You got to tell about the atrocities. Yes, absolutely. And this is what, of course, we need to talk about the horrible things that happened in U.S. history. But for a third grader, there is an age-appropriate way in how to describe the tragic tale of the Trail of Tears. For a second grader, there is an age-appropriate way to present that slavery is wrong without giving horrible details that their second grade mind cannot be, traumatized by. Okay? And the problem is that for decades now, the overarching theme in mainstream teaching our history is to teach kids from kindergarten to set a tone to see America as being awful and terrible before they actually learn what it took to achieve the liberty and freedom that we have here and why liberty and freedom is so vital to protect. And as a parent, I will full on stand by my perspective that all kids do need to learn to love America before we share the gory, awful details and pick it apart and critique it with the goal to make it better. The way that history has been taught in recent years is that it has yielded a generation of young Americans to hate our own country, to want to destroy our country from within. That's a failure of teaching American history. So I want to take a look now quickly at Ken Burns' words from another interview he did to promote his PBS series, The American Revolution. This is something that floated up in my Instagram feed. I ironically do not follow either one of these accounts that this, came up in my feed, but let's go ahead and hit it right now. This is Ken Burns' own words about the American Revolution. Can we pull it up? Here we go.
I think the American Revolution is the most important event in world history since the birth of Christ, because it changed people who had always been subjects into being citizens. And that's a big deal. And it inspired revolutions all around, despite how flawed the people might be, despite how partial the initial liberties were and still are. That's the American thing, is to open them up and to keep expanding what all men means. Yeah, I think this is a great story.
That's right. That's right. And I agree. Yes, Ken, I agree. The founding of the United States is the most important event in history since the birth of Christ. And yes, I will be watching the series on PBS, by the way, contrary to what others may project about, how I feel about PBS. Listen, I will be watching this series because as fellow Americans, we should always want to learn more history. And you see his excitement when he was talking about history. That's what we're after. That's what we're after at PragerU Kids, to instill in our young citizens. That's what Ken Burns is after. I guarantee that if Ken Burns and I, or if listen, Ken, you are more than welcome. We invite you to discuss history. We invite you to, I would dare say, visit us and talk about how important it is to learn American history. We probably don't agree on all things that are happening in the world right now and all worldviews, but the thing that we do agree on is that teaching an excitement for history through stories is absolutely vital. That's what we're after. That's what we're aiming to foster through our shows and books for our most youngest learners. And our kids need to learn how to love history first. And if that means starting with the positive, then I'm good with it. And that's why we teach our kindergartners about the Pilgrims and the Indians and the first harvest of 1621. Yes, people died. Yes, that time was awful. Yes, settlers killed Indians and Indians killed settlers. But we also need to teach our kids, above all of that, we need to set the tone that the American Indians taught the Pilgrims how to farm and harvest, and the 3-day celebration of the harvest between people who had to learn to live together through all kinds of differences and strife. That is important. That is what is important. And to foster that love of history, you have to start young. And that's why we have this. Oh, yeah, you better believe I have props. That's why we started with our books. That is why we started with our Otto's Tales series. Today is Thanksgiving. And that's why we added to our Otto's Tales series, Let's Visit Plymouth Rock. You can get these books online. I don't have to tell you that. You guys all know. These are the story of the settlers. Yes, it talks about how the settlers depended on the Native Americans. Yes, it talks about how the Native Americans were the first people on the land. No one's whitewashing history. We're teaching it in age-appropriate ways so that children can love this country. I'm going to get to the Department of Ed's announcements soon. I know you're waiting for it. But first, I want to show you a clip of one of our Craftery episodes dedicated to, and this is just in time for Thanksgiving. This is a little thing. I'm sprinkling in Thanksgiving things because, like I said, it's my favorite holiday. I want to show you a Craftery episode clip dedicated to how America's freedoms and survival would not have been possible without the strategies and the support of Native American communities. Here you go. Let's listen in.
Right along the edge. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
This is for
Right on top of the circle. It worked. And yes, you're going to do it a second time.
for adults who already
Something
know
that a lot
the
of
basics
people
our
don't
history.
know is how much Native Americans helped during some of the United States' biggest wars. In 1778, when George Washington's Continental Army was fighting the British in the American Revolution, about 50 warriors from the Oneida and Tuscarora tribes joined camps at Valley Forge and ambushed British soldiers. Now, during the Civil War in the 1800s, almost 200 men of the Delaware Nation volunteered to fight with the Union Army against slavery. And during World War II in the 1940s, Navajo Native Americans served as code talkers, using their language as a code to share information and help the U.S. win the war. What we're going to do now is
There we go. And then we go ahead and we make the powwow drum that is central to Native American culture. And we talk about the value of Native Americans. We talk about how settlers and Americans had to learn to live together through conflict and violence and all of that, you know, all the stuff that we all need to know for the sake of knowing who we are as Americans and what we stand for and why we're working towards a more perfect union. So anyways, that's one of our shows, Craftery, Crafts and History for kindergarten through fifth graders. If you haven't already, you can subscribe for free to PragerUkids.com. Wholesome video and lessons that teach kids kindergarten through 12th grade history, good character, financial literacy, biblical values, and more free resources on our website. And we got a ton of Thanksgiving content. Okay, can I clap? Yes, we go. Okay, so Will, here we go. Producer Will is ready for this. Moving on to the big news this week, and this is just really recent news. Mainstream media, if they haven't already lost their minds, they're going to lose their mind about the Department of Education dismantling. Do not be scared. It's happening. This is exciting. Do not panic. Parents and teachers and mainstream media, do not panic. What is happening now and what is going forward is common sense action. We are aiming to fix this bureaucratic mess that our education system has been stuck in for 40 years. $3 trillion, 40 years. We know that, generally speaking. I'm giving you a little bit of background here just to remind y'all. Drop a comment if this disturbs you. Drop a comment if you know what the announcement was from the other day from the Department of Ed. But here we go, a little bit of background. Less than half of America's kindergarten through 12th graders are proficient in reading and math. Less than half. Every single month we get another study proving that the school system, generally speaking, is failing kids, especially the unionized public schools. That's another tangent of a conversation. I won't get into that now. Last week, we got another report. University of California, San Diego, UCSD, top-ranked university, part of the University of California system, found that university students cannot answer simple math questions. Look this up. Look up UCSD's Senate Administration Working Group on Admissions. It says that 25% of students in need of remedial math training could not figure out the answer to this equation. 7 plus 2 equals blank plus 6. They cannot do basic math. This is addition and subtraction, people. This is the kind of problem that California first graders are expected to know. Okay? And 61% in this UCSD study were unable to round the number 374,518 to the nearest 100. This is a task that third graders are drilled on. And let's not forget, earlier this year, Harvard's math department had to start offering a new math course for students who were struggling to keep up in the standard Harvard math classes. So, long story short, we know that education's failing. We get headlines about it every other week, all the time. Do I think that the education system is a multifaceted problem with phones and lackadaisical parenting from elementary school to high school? Yeah. As a mom, I think it's a multifaceted problem, but it's also a problem with lowered national standards and red tape, mandated red tape from a federal level, and no local control for our schools. We have to look at this factually and truthfully. So we've got lots of problems in education. Department of Ed has been a $3 trillion failure for 40 years. Again, unfortunately, the Department of Education has not been able to fix the problems in our schools. Do I think there's a magic bullet to fix the problem? No. But there are steps we can take. So if something needs to be changed, we need to be changing it. Don't progressives always want change? Right? Will, are you nodding? Yes, progressives always want change. So here, let's solve the problem. Let's start with Secretary of Education Linda McMahon's op-ed in USA Today last weekend. This published November 16th. It was essentially, and let's go ahead and bring up this article right now, Will. This was essentially a tee-up to the action plan that the department announced the other day. And this is important for context, and it's pulled up on the screen now if you're watching. I'm just going to read through it. By Linda McMahon. This was an op-ed. Open editorial. She writes, "Our nation just experienced the longest government shutdown in its history. The 43-day shutdown, which came smack in the middle of the fall semester, showed every family how unnecessary the federal education bureaucracy is to their children's education. Students kept going to class. Teachers continued to get paid. There were no disruptions in sports seasons or bus routes." And the shutdown proved an argument that conservatives have been making for 45 years. The U.S. Department of Education is mostly a pass-through for funds that are best managed by the states. Okay? That's why, now that the government shutdown is over, we are emboldened to return the education to the states. This is her op-ed. So let me be clear. That's why, and she says here, they're fulfilling President Donald Trump's promise to return education to the states. And she goes, and then there's a little picture of her and Donald Trump, as you can see there, President Trump. And the paragraph underneath it says, "To be clear, returning education to the states does not mean the end of federal support for education." I will repeat that. This does not mean the end of federal support for education. And I'm going to go through this now. I want to bring up this is what I'm going to expand on, because a lot of people are going to panic. The Department of Ed is dismantling. Oh my gosh. No, let's bring up the press release right now from the Department of Education about their announcement. I believe it's that. Here we go. Awesome, Will. Everyone give Will a round of applause. He was thrown into this live stream today. Thank you so much, man. Okay, so full transparency before we get into these details, and I'm just going to sort of cherry pick some of them that speak to me as a mom with children heading into those high school years. A full transparency here also. I was on a call with the Department of Education earlier this week, and I was informed about this announcement firsthand. This is the breakdown of what I'm about to share with you is straight from the source. This is not my own guessing game. I'm not interpreting this on my own. I am sharing these fact checks with you in full transparency so that you can have the facts and you can think about what this means to you, and that you can also question how this can and will shake out, because that's your prerogative as American. Right now, the Department of Ed has created red tape mandates that are squeezing schools and students. So in the press release now, I'm going to go through it with you from the top. Press release states, this was released on November 18th, 2025. The Department of Education announced 6 new interagency agreements, known as IAAs, with various agencies to break up the federal education bureaucracy while ensuring efficient delivery of funds and programs. These new partnerships are with the Departments of Labor, the Department of Interior, and the Department of Health and Human Services, and also the Department of State. And this is a major step toward improving the management of select Department of Ed programs by leveraging partner agencies' administrative expertise and experience to work with relevant stakeholders. So what the heck does this all mean? I know this is fancy language. What does this all mean? 6 interagency agreements or partnerships. This means that certain responsibilities to serve students that have been housed in the Department of Education, certain responsibilities to serve students in special programs like grants and funding are now being shifted to other departments that are better equipped to serve the people who need these services. The administration is working with Congress to streamline the kinds of services that people need, that students need, so that it doesn't get stuck in mandated red tape in this big behemoth of a Department of Education. I'm going to go through a few of these things that stood out for me about what this announcement means. I want you, this is just a little tidbit of an info, because I only have so much time here. I want you to look these things up on ed.gov under their press releases. There is a strategic plan and outline with full transparency. Full transparency. I don't want you as parents and teachers and administrators and educators to project what you think this all means. I am begging, as I always do here at PragerU Kids, look up things in their entirety. Get the full picture. So here's one of the things that stood out for me. The Department of Labor will be taking a greater role in K through 12th education, including Title I funds. As you know or may not know, Title I is a federal program that provides funding to local education agencies to help schools with low-income students. Title I's goal is to help all children meet high academic standards by giving extra educational resources and support. As we see through all the studies that come out, kids, especially in low-income schools, are not meeting the standards at all. They're not meeting proficient standards, okay? So things are not working. Title I funds can be used for various services, including specialized instruction, smaller class sizes, and professional development. So the Department of Labor is going to be taking on a greater role in administering federal K through 12 programs to make sure that these programs are better aligned with workforce and college programs. This includes managing competitions and training programs for students so that education can actually align with our American workforce, okay? Education needs to prepare students to inherit the blessings of a free and productive society. So far, the Department of Ed in the last 40 years has completely failed in this effort. We've seen the results from the nation's report card. Nearly 7 out of 10 4th and 8th grade students are not proficient in reading, and the results are similar for math. It's sad. So we are at a point now where nearly half of America's high school seniors are testing below basic levels in math or reading. How are they going to go into the workforce? We need better coordinating with kindergarten through 12th grade, and the Department of Labor is better equipped to align these types of learning pathways and resources so that we can have a stronger and more prepared generation that's actually ready to meet the demands for a changing economy and to be productive members of a free society. So that's number one. Department of Labor will be handling or overseeing, taking a greater role in K through 12th grade, and that is including Title I. So moving on to the next partnership with Department of Interior. Department of Interior, and this one, I happen to like this one a lot. Department of Interior will be taking on Indian education to improve Indian education in the U.S., administering the Ed Department's Indian education programs, including K through 12 grant programs, career and technical education programs, and programs that serve Native students with disabilities. Why? Why is the Department of Interior taking this on? It's a common sense partnership. Because to make sure that the Department of Interior's Bureau of Indian Education has a full line of sight into tribal education programs, enabling these dollars to best serve the Native community. A lot of people, this is real valuable stuff. This partnership will build a system to give Native youth and adults through their academic career to pursue high wage, high demand, high skill occupations. It's also going to reduce the administrative burden on tribal nations. Okay, this is the goal behind this shift. Next, I want to tackle the Department of Health and Human Services. Their HHS is now going to oversee child care services to improve on-campus child care support for parents who are enrolled in college. HHS, Health and Human Services, already oversees child care focused grants. So again, this is common sense. This makes sense for HHS to improve the child care support for parents in school. HHS administers Head Start, just a reminder, which is the largest federal child care program along with child care development block grants. So it makes the agency, it makes HHS better equipped to give child care services more attention to low-income students who are enrolled in college. This is good stuff. Okay, so again, I encourage you, go to ed.gov, look up their press releases. They have detailed these shifts, these partnerships from the Department of Education to other agencies that are better equipped to serve needs of people. So this is common sense stuff. This is empowering. This is a good thing for parents and teachers. Teachers know what their students need in real time. And this shrinking of the administrative bureaucracy of the Department of Education is going to open it up for teachers to be able to deliver what their students need in real time without bureaucratic red tape. It's also going to open it up for school choice. So again, anyone who receives services are not going to be affected. Civil rights and special education are not going anywhere. They are staying in the Department of Education at this time. Services are not going away. Repeat after me. Services are not going away. There is merely going to be a change in terms of which agency handles what for our education system. And the Department of Labor, the Department of Interior, and the Department for Health and Human Services are going to rightfully be tasked with handling the types of programs that they already handle within, but they're going to be tasked with handling it within our education system. The agencies that deliver the grants and services are changing to better serve more efficiently, because we got to get our government running more efficiently. This is one of the things that we always try to teach our kids, especially in some of our civics series about civics on PragerU Kids, is how our government works. Breaking up bureaucracy means more productivity. And this is an additional note too, just a fun fact. Workers in the Ed department are being shifted into these other agencies. So don't get any false ideas. Don't say everyone's going to be losing their job. No, this is not an immediate mass layoff situation happening, from my understanding. The Department of Education wants to give more authority to local leaders in K through 12th education. I am thankful for this moment. I am thankful for the efforts that we are trying to fix a bit of what has been broken for so long. Look up the press release for yourself, ed.gov. I only give you a smidge of what it means. It's all detailed there. You can read everything and judge and discuss and debate and critique for yourself. And before we go, we're reaching the end of our time. We ran a little over because we had tech difficulties in the beginning, but here we are. We're reaching the end. Before we go, I want to give your family a gift for Thanksgiving. Let's pull up our little trivia page for the family table during appetizers, during dessert, as a conversation starter. This is our PragerU Kids Thanksgiving trivia poster. This is for free. I printed it out here. It's adorable. Print on your own computers. Here we go. So it's a Thanksgiving quiz starting at 1621 and detailing the highlights. This is a highlight reel of Thanksgiving, okay? What is the purpose of this? To instill gratitude, love of country through our faults and differences, okay? I'm pointing my finger through our faults and differences. This is to instill a basic general knowledge about the history of Thanksgiving. You want to do a deep dive into the hardships and the violence, and that you can do the deep dive and administer that to your children in age-appropriate ways. This is for the purpose of gratitude, top-down knowledge, basic understanding, and unity as Americans through our differences. Pilgrims and Indians didn't always get along. Guess what? They had to learn how to live with each other. Thanksgiving is a testament to that American value that we have got to learn to live with each other, even if we don't get along. Anyways, trivia starts in 1621 to 1789 to 1801 to 1817 to 1827, highlighting Sarah Josepha Hale is known as the Mother of Thanksgiving, woman of valor in history, for launching a campaign to make Thanksgiving a national holiday in 1827. Fun fact, drop in the comment if you know which American president proclaimed a day of Thanksgiving to be celebrated on the final Thursday in November. Here's a hint. It's the incredible president who ended slavery, who we love so much, Abraham Lincoln. Okay, get it free. Go to PragerUkids.com. Get this for free. It's a fun trivia for your family. Enjoy it Thanksgiving. Should I go to the comments? I don't know if we have time. It's always a challenge for me to pull up the comments on Facebook. I'm going to try. Let's see if you stuck with me today. Again, we always thank you for your support for PragerU and PragerU Kids. We welcome your debate, dissent. We welcome your comments. I'm on Facebook. Oh, Claudia says the screen is frozen. Oh, that makes me so sad. Anyways, I'm trying to look up the comments here. I can't look up any other comments. Anyways, we thank you for your support. That's it for today. I hope I was able to give some clarity for you regarding the Department of Education's announcement to partner with different agencies to take on responsibilities to better serve students and we the people. As parents, we always need to ask questions and get back to discussing and debating. We encourage healthy debate with our educators. We're not all going to agree on everything, but that's what true patriotism is, and I want everyone to remember that this Thanksgiving and beyond. Patriotism is debate, questioning the status quo, breaking down bureaucracy that doesn't serve people in practical ways. The United States was founded upon arguing with each other and finding a way. If you haven't already, it's our standard call out. Subscribe to PragerUkids.com for free. New releases delivered to your inbox for kindergarten through 12th grade to instill a knowledge and a love of patriotism and U.S. and world history rooted in our American values, rooted in our biblical values. Even Ken Burns, at the top of this live, if you're just joining, even Ken Burns talks about how important the Bible was and is in our American founding. And he talked about it in the interview that he did with Katie Couric that I shared the clip of at the top of the show. Anyways, we wish you a very, very happy Thanksgiving. We are grateful for all of you. If you want a link to our Thanksgiving content just to get your family started, the link is in the description of of wherever you're watching from on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X. We can't do any of this without you. God bless you all. God bless America. We wish you a meaningful and very, very happy Thanksgiving, full of love for America and good old-fashioned hearty debate. See you next time.